Welcome to the FullyCrypto podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of what you surely must realise now is the FullyCrypto podcast, your home of quality blockchain and cryptocurrency news, reviews, opinion and more. My name continues to be Mark Hunter, and co-hosting with me as usual is John McAfee's third best body double, Alex Mears.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm alright, mate. Third best. You've been relegated, I think.
I'll take that. At least I'm not going to be one that goes to jail.
It might mean you're looking younger and healthier if you're slipping down the pecking order. Because let's face it, if you're his best body double, you're in bad physical shape.
Exactly. Yeah, you're probably going to have heart failure next week. So I'll take it. I've got a couple more weeks to go.
What did you make of his arrest?
It's been a long time coming. It's about time it happened. He's clearly got a lot of things wrong with him. Like he does have the odd moment of clarity and wisdom, but
even a broken clock is right twice a day,
exactly.
Isn't it?
But yeah, I mean, if you're not going to pay your taxes and you're going to post it all over social media every day of the week, then of course it's going to catch up with you.
I love the fact he was done on tax evasion. I love the fact he got caponed. After all the videos he's posted of gun running, all the drug stuff, all the weird and crazy shit he's done, it's the tax they get him on. I think it's fantastic.
It's the most mundane of charges as well. It's just the easy one.
For a really extreme guy to be done on that really bookkeeping and nerdy thing, it's just hilarious.
Oh, exactly.
But
It's
again,
something he could have paid someone else to do for him. He wouldn't even have to even know it's done.
It's kind of retribution for me for all the rubbish that he shilled in, I was going to say 2017, but 2017 and beyond. But do you remember his coin of the week?
Yeah, he was taking thousands just to post that as well.
I forget what the figure is, but it's something like 10 or 11 million he earned as a shill for hire. He earned something like 10 to 11 million dollars, but he also earned roughly the same amount from tokens of those projects gifted to him that he then dumped on, he would take these free tokens, help them hype it up, and then dump on the new people coming in. So he earned, on top of that, another 10 to 11 million dollars.
Wow, fuck me.
So I'm guessing he's got unless he spent it all, he's got all this Bitcoin or whatever knocking around in various wallets that they're probably not going to be able to touch.
Yeah, I guess it depends on, how he decides to get rid of it and offload it. Because they could just freeze it. They could, blacklist it so if it hits an exchange, that's it, it's gone. Can't do anything.
I imagine that someone like him has got a way around it, or maybe that's just because this mystique he's managed to create for himself. But in this day and age,
he's still a normal person at the end of the day, isn't he?
And I think 3 years ago, before we had all these regulations and there was a lot more monitoring of off ramps, he could have got away with it. But I think now he's gonna have a lot more difficulty getting rid of that without having...
Yeah, unless he does peer-to-peer transactions, uses ATMs.
Yeah, which I can't see him doing. But well.
He could invent his own card to use as well. Maybe that's what the whole point of his ghost was.
Potentially.
His own little exit ramp.
Yeah, well, anyway, he is not the subject of our first story tonight. What we're going to talk about tonight, first of all, is BitMEX and more continuing trouble for them. Just a few weeks after this announcement by the CFTC that the three co-founders and a bunch of other people, including good old Arthur, they've been handed all sorts of... charges, fraud, money laundering and the rest of it by the CFTC. And then just yesterday, all the guys that have been indicted are all stepping aside and making way for some new blood, but it's the old boys coming through. But interesting that the three guys that founded the platform, all gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably some sort of deal they took to get out of it. It reminds me a bit of when Elon Musk had to step aside from Tesla to avoid a whole bunch of trouble with the SEC. So I think, they've probably been offered a deal to step aside, sort of a step aside now and we'll lessen the punishments, because obviously then they don't have the control. The new people will have complete influence over it. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
Well, it's interesting you should phrase it that way, because that's what I was going to talk about today, is like, where do they go from here? Because obviously for years they've been unregulated. Anyone's been sending money in. We can't have America. Well, it's going through a VPN. It's been really easy to do. And it's finally, like lots of similar platforms, it's catching up with them. And even though they've got these new guys coming through, you would think that this is going to be the best chance they've got to kind of clean up their act and stay relevant, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a platform that has a lot of interest and a lot of need in the space. It's very needed. So I think if the new guys do their job properly, they could just, set it up as, this is the new BitMEX. This is, how it has to be because of regulators. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. If you want to carry on using the BitMEX you know and love or hate, then, you just got to do a bit of KYC and AML. It's not the end of the world.
It's not, but I worry for them. I don't care for them personally, but as a company, I worry for them because I think that they are at risk of doing a bit of a local bitcoins because, when Bitcoin kind of first came out, local bitcoins was such a popular place to go because there was no KYC needed. You could just go and exchange for cash in a cafe or whatever it was, or a dodgy street corner if you were so inclined. Yeah. But now, because they've got new management, new ownership, they've complied with all the regulations, they are no different than any other off-ramp or on-ramp out there. Their USP has been completely negated and they're suffering as a result in terms of their the kind of volume of trading that goes through them. Yeah. And I wonder because, and I'm not sure if you've actually used BitMEX, but I've used it once or twice and it's not a nice platform to use. And there are better alternatives out there, much better alternatives out there, and I just worry that they suddenly are no different to better platforms out there.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? In the sense that it depends. This could spur them on to become better. It could, make them change the user experience. It could make them add loads of different features that maybe others don't have just to remain relevant. But again, like you say, it could go the other way and they could just disappear off the face of the planet. I guess it depends how badly the new sort of directors want this to succeed and they want to keep doing it. Because you got to think about it anyway. Like if they just made a whole bunch of money off the old platform with all the, the no regulation, then are they really going to fuss, wasting a whole bunch of money to make something that's just the same everyone else has? I think if they're really going to go for it, they're going to go big. They're not going to do it half-assed. So I think it's either going to vanish or it's going to come back bigger, better and stronger than ever before.
Well, they started to do KYC. Well, they said they were going to implement KYC like last month or the month before. And like $70 million worth of Bitcoin left the platform like that day because people are so terrified. And they are going to struggle initially because they're going to have to bring in tighter controls over a whole range of areas of the site. People aren't just going to go because of the name anymore. The BitMEX name was quite known, but I just think they're going to struggle initially when they have to implement all this new stuff. Like you said, unless they have a major revamp of the entire direction that they go in, from their mindset and outlook to the usage of the platform, no one's going to go there because the platform's so good. It's horrible. They went there because they didn't have to pass any KYC or anything. So there's not much for people to really go back for.
Yeah, and I suppose that they will. This is what the CFTC want anyway, isn't it? They want to remove this potentially dangerous and dodgy trading, sort of the ability for people to wash their money fairly easily. And, I don't mind that. Like, I get that. That's part of investments and trading. Like, so it's needed, it's there in the traditional finance world. So I don't see why it can't be there in crypto. I get that. So I think it might be a good thing, like, it's nice to have your privacy, but if you have a smartphone, you don't have any privacy anyway. No matter whether you think you do or you don't, you just don't. So I think the only people who are going to be truly, truly upset are these privacy nuts that, they don't have any sort of technology at home. But then, so I think the point is that the only people who will be upset and the ones that will leave are the ones that are doing something that's frowned upon. So I think it could just be good for the space. It could be what crypto needs.
Oh, I think it definitely is. I think in terms of its reputation, getting rid of these proper like charlatan exchanges is what it needs. And I'm amazed that BitMEX has got away with it for so long.
I think that's the most impressive feature of this.
yeah. Of their entire business model, the fact they're still going as they have been for the past few years is the best we can say of it. But I know the CFTC started their investigation last year. It was about 15 months ago, I think they started. And it was pretty clear that the moment that you knew they were looking into BitMEX, you just knew that the second they were finished, it was done. As it stands,
game over.
Not the whole platform, but as it stands now, it was done. The moment they got their clause in, you were like, yeah, you're done. I mean, I'd imagine that the three guys they've got, the three founders, Arthur and the other two stooges, I imagine they're just going to get a fine, which they can pay quite easily, and be told they're not allowed to operate any such exchange in the future. That's going to be pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll get that, and they can just operate something that's not in the US. Because I think that's probably going to be one of the key takeaways. You just can't do it in the US.
Yeah.
And, so what they'll do is they'll just set it up in the Caribbean and just geo-block all American users.
Well, that would be interesting, is if you had this new BitMEX competing with the old one in some way, and how different it would be. Because I don't know, I get the impression that Arthur's not much of a creative genius, shall we say. I imagine he might find a way to copy and paste the source code. He'll find a way to copy and paste the source code from BitMEX, and it'll just be the same platform, just from a different website.
Nextbit. They'll run it from Mexico.
Oh, God. Oh, they'll love him out there. Yes. So I think, it's going to be interesting. I mean, they will have their hand forced. They will have to do something. And I just get this feeling. I mean, who talks anymore about local Bitcoins? No one buys their Bitcoin from local Bitcoins anymore. And I just think you're going to get to the point where no one uses BitMEX anymore.
I guess it depends, because there is still market for local Bitcoins. It's just not in the developed world, let's say, because the regulations in the developed world have made it virtually impossible to use. Whereas I'm not going to call them third world countries, because they're not really. They're just abused and hindered by the developed countries, shall we say. So I think in these countries, it still has a lot of purpose and use, because the regulations aren't up to scratch, because they're busy fighting other things like inflation and complete restrictions and sanctions on their country. So they're not really fussed about crypto right now. It's like low down on their list. So they're still thriving. I mean, Venezuela, it's the only way to buy Bitcoin. Okay, so it's still got it's a limited use case, but it's a strong use case, hence why it's still going. Whereas something like BitMEX is not gonna, unless they create a use case for themselves, like they just only exist in countries where there are no KYC regulations. People haven't got any real need to use it. You can go into any other futures platform now and do the same thing. Exactly. I mean, I think the only people that will continue to use it, should they open another version without KYC, will be the people who are either privacy nuts or do have something to hide. So I think it could just spell more trouble for that community. It could isolate them even more. I think it'd be interesting how it goes, because your average user doesn't really need or want what BitMEX offers.
What, 150x leverage trading? No, not at all.
It's just dangerous. You should have to be a certain level of trader with a certain level of experience to be able to get that anyway.
I think in a year's time, it will be a very different experience.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more like a traditional exchange when it's finished.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty confident saying in a year's time, Arthur and the gang will be a few $1,000s lighter, and BitMEX will be a much safer place to trade.
You're listening to the FullyCrypto podcast.
So the second story we were going to talk about tonight is the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, which is the financial governing body in the UK. They, very, very soon after the BitMEX news, actually, only a couple of days afterwards, they're banning any futures, ETNs, anything like that. Any platform that is offering anything other than raw crypto, shall we say, has been banned from operating in the UK.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's about time. I'm tired of these companies saying, oh, you can buy Bitcoin through us. they charge a fee for it, and it's not even crypto.
Mm.
And you know what? They go, yeah, it is Bitcoin, it is Bitcoin Cash. It's not. If I can't deposit it or withdraw it in your exchange, in your app, your exchange, whatever, then it's not real.
Mm.
So I think it's about time, because people think they've got Bitcoin in their portfolio. You haven't. You've got a piece of paper that says this is worth like 0.1 Bitcoin or whatever. And it's not. So I'm really pleased with this.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's quite big platforms that are going to be affected by this, like eToro and Revolut. They are quite popular. You know, you see eToro advertised everywhere. Revolut maybe not quite as much, but again, I didn't realize when I first started using Revolut a couple of years ago. I don't think I joined it for the use of crypto, but when I realized it was there, I thought, oh, I'll have a go with this. I bought some Litecoin or whatever, and I thought, oh, okay, well, now I've bought it. The fees are quite high here. I'm going to send it to, I don't know, Binance, say, to exchange. But when I realised I couldn't send it out of my wallet, that's when I thought, well, hang on a minute, what have I bought then?
Exactly. It doesn't tell you unless you read the fine print, and the marketing is done very well, so you don't really notice. And it's just dodgy. I mean, you know, fair enough, if you don't want the hassle of crypto, it's nice, I suppose, to have that. But it's not real. It's not tangible Bitcoin.
And 99.9% of people, until they come to actually try and do something with it other than sell it on the same platform again, they're not going to realize that until it's too late. And the thing is as well, somewhere like Revolut, I remember this because I went to sell the Litecoin when I realized I couldn't sell it on a different platform. So when I went to sell it on Revolut again, the price was I'd say significantly different from the general price on the market, but you're stuck with whatever price they put on it.
Exactly. You can't adjust the price. You can't do anything. You're trapped. You are literally tied to the platform. You're trapped. And it's, you know, the fees are higher than a lot of other exchanges, and the spread is bigger too.
Yeah.
I mean, like eToro, I remember I tried that out when they first launched crypto trading, and the spread was massive. You're going to need the coin to pump like 10-15% before you even break even. Once you sort of calculate in the spread difference and the fees. And it's just unreasonable. Yeah.
It is good that this has come in, and it will stop a lot of cowboys as well that are pretending, these kind of scams that pretend to sell crypto, and yeah, like you say, just it's a number on a spreadsheet. It's not real crypto at all. And it's not really a surprise because it was, I think, last July or last June, I think it was, that the FCA first announced that they were looking at these things. You know, considering the UK is not as big as other countries when it comes to crypto stuff, they've been pretty hot on it. I think 2017 was a bit of a wake-up call, and last summer they came out and said we're looking at these ETNs, these CFDs, this sort of thing. We're not happy with those. We might ban those. And then maybe even this March potentially, they warned people to be especially wary of BitMEX because it was unregulated. So they've been pretty good in protecting UK consumers in the past 2 years, I have to say.
Yeah, I think they've been very on the ball, which is nice to see. Like, even though, like you say, the UK crypto market isn't the biggest out there, you know, they really are actually trying to keep you safe. They're not trying to be difficult. They're just trying to actually look after you, which is nice because there are some out there that just want to be difficult.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see they're being very pragmatic about the whole approach. You know, they're saying, okay, fine, you know, if you want to play with crypto, do, but we're going to make it a bit safer by removing this, and this, which is nice.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. They could have just banned all crypto trading outright, but they haven't done that. They've said, yeah, you know what, if you want to invest in this, do your own research. We're not going to stop you doing it, but we are going to try and make it safer for you, which is quite a nice balance they've struck.
Exactly. It's like a parent who's got a kid that goes, oh, you know, I want to go to a party tonight and have a few drinks. And the parent's like, okay, fine, I'll drive you. Here's a 6-pack from the fridge. Give me a call when you want to come home. Rather than, you know, the parent saying, oh, no, you can't go to the party, you can't get drunk.
Yeah.
You know, and then the kid just goes off and does it anyway, but does it more dangerously and opens themselves to more risk. The FCA are just being sort of like the sensible parent.
Yeah, they are. And I think if they didn't do this, then you would have people running off to platforms like BitMEX in the old days when they would just, go and they'd go on crypto Twitter, they'd see people posting their profit and loss things. Oh, look, this guy just leverage traded at 100 times and Bitcoin went up $20 and he made like $1,000. I'm going to do that. They get completely killed because they don't know what they're doing. So that's what happens if you do stamp it out completely. But in the announcement that they made, the reasons they gave behind the action are completely valid. There was 5 points that they said was why they wanted to stop these particular kinds of platforms. They said the inherent nature of the underlying assets, there's no reliable basis for valuation, and in most cryptocurrencies, no, there is no reliable basis for the valuation at all.
Yeah.
The prevalence of market abuse and financial crime in a secondary market, like wallet theft and that sort of thing, which of course, yeah, we know that hacks and stuff go on all the time. The extreme volatility, which you're well used to if you know about crypto, but if you don't know about it and you've been hooked into these things and all you're told is you're getting these huge gains, is going to be a bit of a surprise when Bitcoin drops 20% in one day.
Yeah, exactly, especially if you're with leverage.
Yeah, well, exactly. Related to that point, the inadequate understanding of crypto assets by retail customers, which, I mean, I don't know these days, really. I mean, post-2017, I don't know where people who just drift into crypto these days, how are they finding out about it? In 2017, you can understand it because mainstream media had it massively covered. But people that are coming in new to the market, how are they finding out about crypto?
I think it's just a hangover from 2017. They're seeing that Bitcoin's back up on the rise again. It's above $10,000. You know, could this be the next time we're going to have Bitcoin mania again? So, you know, they're all just sort of, I think, they're all just sort of dipping their toes in the water, being like, oh, you know, like I don't want to miss out I missed out last time. I don't want to miss out this time. So I think there's a bit of that going on. And I think that crypto world has expanded a lot. Since 2017, there are a lot more companies, there's a lot more adverts now about it. So, you know, like even the Premier League, you watch a football game, you see Bitcoin.
That's true.
You know, they've teamed up with Sportsbet.io, have teamed up with Arsenal as well as their official gambling partner. So I think if, you know, you're into like Arsenal, you're going to eventually see something about Bitcoin, so you might get curious. So I think there's lots of these little nuggets of, this could be interesting, why don't you do some research? Why don't you buy some?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think with this kind of drip feeding approach, I would be surprised if people are looking at it and going, oh, what's this? I've never heard of this. I think a lot of people are looking at it and going, oh, I remember that from a few years ago. Is it still a thing? Let me look into it.
Exactly. And where they're getting it drip fed to them, they're like, oh, maybe this is the beginning of 2017 all over again. You know, where it started out, no one was talking about it, and then suddenly it's everywhere. So maybe they're feeling like it's just the beginning. They could jump on right now and it's the very beginning of what's going to happen next.
Which is when they come across things like eToro or whatever, or trading 212, whatever the hell it is. Because what's the first thing they do? They go to YouTube and they put in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency into YouTube, and the first thing that pops up is these adverts saying trade Bitcoin here, trade Bitcoin here. And it all looks lovely and fancy and the app looks very swish, and they may have even heard of eToro or seen the adverts on the tube or whatever. And that's how they get into it. I wonder then who's going to fill that gap?
I think eToro will fill their own gap because they have their own actual crypto wallet.
You can trade on eToro and withdraw your cryptocurrency, can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's I don't think you can trade it on eToro. They just have their own crypto wallet, as far as I'm aware. Now, I've never used the platform beyond their CFDs. But I know they do have some sort of crypto wallet.
So they're okay because they just have to cut out any leverage trading they might do, any futures.
They'll cut out the leverage trading, and they'll probably just make any crypto purchases actual crypto. They'll probably use a market maker just to fill the books, use its own wallet tech that it already has, and it'll just carry on like business as usual, just more unimproved. You can actually play with your real Bitcoin now.
The other thing as well is that agencies like the FCA and those kind of regulatory bodies, they're very quick to kind of do down on crypto. They're very quick to say it's volatile, it's dangerous, it's this, it's that, people aren't educated. But nowhere do they point you in the direction of where to get educated.
Yeah, that's true.
At the end of the day, there's a benefit to the government, shall we say, because UK-based exchanges and those kind of platforms are going to be paying taxes on what they bring in. So it's, you know, you could say it's in the government's interest in a way to keep this going in that respect. They haven't got to do much, just knock together a basic, this is Bitcoin, this is crypto guide, and just just direct people towards that. If you're leaving the door open for people, if you're not banning the whole thing, if you're saying to people, you can do this, but watch out, then why not also just push people in a certain direction?
Exactly.
Even if you're pushing people towards a third-party educational resource, if you find one that you think is valid, just push them in that direction so they are able to make more informed choices.
Exactly. I mean, I think perhaps that's some way they might explore. It's some way they need to explore. I totally agree with you. I mean, even if they made their own guides, I'm pretty sure they could hire a couple of industry experts to put together some stuff.
It doesn't take long.
I mean, I think it's definitely something needed, isn't it? Because, like you say, if they just put that out as news, it's going to make the headlines, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, say you've never even heard of Bitcoin and this is your first time hearing about it, you're going to think, okay, what is it? Let me go and research it, because obviously FCA aren't going to tell you anything about it. So it'd be nice if they had, they could read the news about the FCA, then go to the FCA and find out and learn more about it.
Even like a one-pager, because, you read all this stuff, you think, oh, look, there's all these things to say really bad about it. This sounds quite intriguing. But yeah, there's nowhere official to go, and it wouldn't cost too much to put something together. If you're going to go channeling people's interest, then you have to give them the resources in some form to make informed decisions. Give them the ability to do that. Inform them.
Exactly.
It might happen. It might happen in time. If you are going to go ahead and do your own research, just be careful of crypto Twitter and be careful of YouTube, because YouTube, or here be dragons, it's an absolute minefield. So yeah, that's a very, very, very tricky one to navigate.
Yeah, you have to be very careful with who you listen to.
Yeah, that's why you got to come to FullyCrypto. We know what we're talking about.
And we're not going to shill you some random altcoin. No one pays us to do that. We do this because we love doing it.
We'll advise you what not to buy, not tell you what to buy.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Great. So I think overall, it's generally good news that the FCA have done this, because it does stop cowboys from taking advantage of people that don't know what they're doing.
I would love to see the European Parliament push this through as well, because there are a couple of exchanges here that are doing exactly this. They're saying that it's real Bitcoin, but you can't withdraw it, you can't deposit it, and they say, oh, it's because of, regulatory measures. But these exchanges aren't fully regulated yet, because the regulations aren't up and running here yet. And I'm very sure it's just because they're CFDs. And there's no way to audit it either. Like, if you got Bitcoin, allow your users some way to audit it. So I would love to see the European governments push through something very similar.
Yeah, I think this kind of thing will come with time. You often find that the more, I'm not sure how to say this kind of diplomatically, but the more advanced, shall we say, governments of the world are usually the first to kind of crack down on these things, and the ones that are maybe a little less well supervised, if you like, they kind of take a bit of time to catch up.
Less supervised? Yeah, you mean they take money under the table to give...
I'm not
certain certificates. And then they go, oh, someone's investigating us, let's take those back.
So, overall it's a step in the right direction, and I think this is the kind of thing that over time will come in more and more, and is only going to be a good thing in this space. Yeah,
exactly. I think this has been a positive news thing. I think both things have been positive, despite there being regulatory clampdowns.
Yeah, and I think in a year's time, I think we'll be in a different place, and I think it will be better for it. A bit of an adjustment period, but we'll be used to the new situation, and yeah, it'll be fine. So I think we'll love you and leave you for today. Just a reminder, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FullyCrypto. And Alex, if you could remind us of the wonderful FullyCrypto website address, please.
Yeah, it's FullyCrypto.com.
FullyCrypto.com. And look out next week for a Trezor wallet giveaway. Woo! So look out for that next week. And in the meantime, we hope you have a lovely weekend. Alex, have a good weekend yourself.
And you, Mark, enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and don't get too wet with the rain.
Yeah, I'll try not to. Have a good weekend, everyone. We shall speak to you soon.
Ciao, bye guys.